Hey everyone. I originally intended to put together a long build video in multiple parts, but there's a few of those online, and I don't think you need another one. Pretty much looks the same. I would lay out all your parts though and make sure you label everything. It makes the job a little easier. Be prepared to be frustrated. There's a lot of parts of this build that drove me absolutely insane. Lots of little niggling issues. You can see here I've got it built, but there's lots of little things to pay attention to. The orientation of parts, the upright, the knob hole goes to the right, and positioning of the bed. I'll go on about that later. As far as front to back goes, there's been some upgrades over time that they've been offering this printer for sale, and they're not reflected in the build videos that I can see. I'll show you an upgrade here that happened at some point. I wouldn't call it an upgrade so much as it's just a change. For instance, make sure, like when I was talking about orientation, make sure your holes for your rods are on the outside, not the inside, and that knob hole right there should be on the right-hand side as you're facing the front of the printer. And if you look at these linear bearings, they're housed in plastic. The build video actually shows them in aluminum. I think I probably would have preferred an aluminum housing for the linear bearings, but whatever, it is what it is. I guess I can change them easier if they're mounted in plastic. But as I said, there's lots of this that's going to drive you a little bit batty. Once it's built, you're going to have a lot of cable management to take care of. You can see the wires are just a mess. There's miles too much wire in some cases and not enough in others. Luckily, they provide you with some loom so that you can put that all away and tuck it away nicely. It actually looks okay after the build's finished. So here's the completed unit coming up here. Have a look. Second attempt at Minecraft pieces. First one's not so much. Yeah, not great. This one was done on glass, without any preparation of glass whatsoever, and you can see that the front of the sword didn't stick. The rest of it was settings. There's very little infill, very thin top and bottom layers. Not sure why, but anyway. Everything printed reasonably well. It just the settings were just a little wrong. And for being on glass without hairspray, without glue stick, without anything, it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. What the hell that is? I think it's an arrow. Not into Minecraft, my kids are. So yeah, you can see a little stringing. Thin, right? You know. It's all in all not too bad. For the very first thing I've ever printed on this printer. It started this morning at about 9 o'clock, and it's 9 p.m. Well, it's not quite 9 p.m. It's 8:45 actually. 8:45, and I'm already on my second print from a newly built printer. And I think I spent a couple hours screwing around with the thing, just trying to get it hooked up to my computer instead of putting something on an SD card and just printing it straight out. You know, if it wasn't for really horrendously poor instruction, this is probably like a 2-hour build, this whole printer. There's nothing to it really. Yeah, there's a bunch of finicky little bolts, and of course, but the majority of my time was spent
trying to figure out what it is they were trying to do. They called for a lot of bolts that were wrong, wrong size altogether. Like this one here. Actually, this limit switch stop right here was actually the 20, I think, instead of the 50. And of course, the 20 doesn't even come close. The video itself misses a lot of measurements. It seems to be haphazard and slapped together. I have to make some adjustments to the bed. It's I actually put the bed in the middle, front to back, which of course is a mistake. The bed actually needs to be a little further back, because, or actually a little further forward, sorry, because the print head is forward. It's forward of the uprights here, right? So I can never reach the back end of that bed because it needs to be a little bit further. The distance between the center line of the upright and the center line of the head is what this whole bed assembly needs to be moved forward. I don't love the display. It's a joke. Because when the gantry is moving up, this top rod actually will hit that knob. And you lose, I don't know. Well, you can see here, okay, this should be able to go all the way up to the very top. You should be able to set a limit in the software to get this stop just before there, right? But it'll never make it because this rod will actually smash into that knob before this hits here. So you actually lose a little bit of your Z-axis because of that knob. So I have plans to make a plate that mounts on top up here, and it's kind of up there. Get it the fuck out of the way. And I'd also like to mount my PLA somewhere. I'm not going to mount it on top like you see a lot of people do because when you're printing and the bed's going back and forth and the Z-axis is up and down, everything's moving, the top of that can begin to sway a little bit because of the weight of the PLA on top. So it's just a bad idea. I think if I were to build something that actually kind of went around like this over top, they could mount the PLA on. That would be fine because then it would be isolated from the unit. Yeah, the instructions were absolutely horrible. There's no measurements, there's no nothing. It's absolutely terrible. And when all the parts are, well, some of the parts that are powder coated, when they're powder coated, they're never cleaned up. So you get to spend a lot of time with a rat tail file cleaning up these parts so that you can put these two rods through. And yeah, like I initially had these. I had the feet here all the way out, almost to the edge of this threaded rod, because nowhere in the instructions does it tell you, give you an idea of how far in this should be, and just everything's sort of a guesstimate. And of course, at some point or another, when I went to put these top rods in, and I realized just how far I had to come in on both sides. So, heck of a job there. Just horrendous. I think my heater is actually bowed like this, so I kind of actually need a spring in the middle to help push it up, make contact in the center with the glass. So you can see I'm trying the green painter tape this time around. So I gotta make some adjustments. These things are a pain in the ass. They're cut this way so that they will flex this way. and it's like a split clamp affair. So you get a gap like this, and it closes up, and it clamps onto the ready, or the threaded rod rather, and this gives all sorts of problems. Most notably is the wobble in the threaded rod. Mine, however, actually spent some time messing with these things, as I was one of the lucky ones, and all of my rod came in straight. I don't have any bent rod. I don't know how I got so lucky, but anyway. Yeah, so I spent a little time making some adjustments here, trying to get it as close to center line as possible, center line of the shaft of the motor. But I've got some other couplings coming that hopefully will take care of that for me. And I might have to get the bottom of this ready rod machined so that it'll fit into my new coupling. But yeah, like literally, this should be a 2-hour build. For instance, in the video, a lot of times what you'll see is a set of hands going like this, and they're pointing at that, and they're doing this, and they're fiddling around with tools and stuff, and you can't see what the hell they're doing. Instead of being clear and concise and pointing at something or whatever, and showing you the layout of the bolts you need and nuts and things beforehand, they're just putting stuff on, and going on to the next step, and then the text will come up telling you what bolt you need and things like that. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. If you know what a set of calipers looks like, then those types of instructions to build this type of thing, terrible. Absolutely terrible. I think anybody could come up with a set of instructions to build this infinitely better than what I use today. Anyway, enough complaining about that. So, for this, of course, I'm using Cura. Give that a try. I've got a couple other things that I'm going to try here. Just try to find something that I feel comfortable using. And of course, you can see on the drawing here how far back into this corner I am on my bed, right? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I centered the bed to the uprights, which of course now, since I talked about it 5 minutes ago, we all know is wrong. That bed has to be adjusted. So I'll get that done. When I first printed this was centered, or that was centered on the bed, on the software. And when I started printing here, it was right up against this edge of the glass. Like, right up, it was like a millimeter from spilling off. It's interesting. So, one of my issues is my heater, bed heater. My nozzle heater. It has issues keeping up to temp. It will not get up to 230. 240. Won't do 240. It'll do 232, 33, and then it goes 32, 31, 30, 29, 28. I suspect it may be an issue with my power supply not being able to provide enough current to run both. I would have hoped that when they supplied that power supply, they would have been rated for both the bed heater and the nozzle heater at once. Apparently it's not. So when my bed heater was getting up to 230, trying to get to 240, as soon as the bed heater came on at 69 degrees, the nozzle heater would lose 3, 4, 5 degrees and then have to try and pick it up again once the bed heater got up to temp. So I watched that for about 15 minutes, and then I went in and made an adjustment and bumped it down 20 degrees. I mean, obviously 240 is for ABS, not PLA. I'm trying 220 to see if a little more flow helps. Of course, if I can get this thing to print something decent, I will make the fan mod for the front of the print head. I will have to turn my heater around and thermocouple RTD or whatever the hell it is in there. I will have to turn it around so the wires come up the back side of the print head, so they don't interfere with the fan also in the front, but no biggie. So yeah, aside from multiple piddly issues with the build, once I finished putting it all together and making sure everything was square and level and even, I calibrated the bed and fired it up, and everything fired up first time. I did have one issue. This fan wasn't running, and what I found was the extension for the wire off of this fan that goes through the loom up here and connects on the back. So you can see the connector. Yeah, it's this one right here. That connector. There was one of the wires in that connector wasn't connected, so I had to extract the pin and reconnect the wire to the pin, put the pin back in, and then the fan worked. So everything's working just dandy. It's a great little printer. My first 12 hours with it are kind of interesting. I can't wait to put a few more miles on it. I've got some PLA from MG Chemicals that I'm going to try next. This is the sample of PLA that actually comes with it. It's about 4 or 5 meters. Once that's done, we'll move on to some of the MG Chemicals, and maybe I'll try a few others and see if I can find something that I like. Anyway, that's it for now. When I've got more mods or news, or if I change anything, I'll update. Thanks, bye.